Number 725, Caleb Brewster. His battlefield wasn't a field at all. It was dark water, cold wind, and a narrow stretch of narrow stretch of sea crawling with British patrols. While soldiers fought in formation and spies moved through crowded streets, Brewster fought the revolution, one silent crossing at a time, rowing information through territory the enemy believed to be fully controlled. The British, to the British, the waters of Long Island Sound were a highway. To George Washington, they were a lifeline, and Caleb Brewster was the man who kept that lifeline open. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Caleb Brewster was born in 1747 on Long Island and grew up around the water. By the time the revolution began, he knew the shoreline, the coves, the tides, and the hidden inlets better than any British naval officer ever could. When British forces took control of Long Island in 1776, Brewster didn't flee. He stayed and immediately began assessing patrol efforts as a courier and a boatman. He quickly proved himself reliable, fearless, and precise, the kind of man who could be trusted with information that could get everyone killed if mishandled. When Washington's intelligence network began to take shape in 1778, Brewster was an obvious choice. Brewster was recruited directly by Benjamin Talmadge into the Culper spy ring. His assignment was dangerous but brutally simple. Take whatever intelligence was gathered on Long Island and get it across Long Island Sound into Connecticut through waters controlled almost entirely by the British Navy. From that point on, Brewster operated as the physical artery of Washington's secret war. No matter how valuable the intelligence, it meant nothing unless Brewster could move it. Brewster's missions almost ran entirely at night. He launched from hidden coves near Setauket, guided by the closed lines of Anna Strong and the coordination of Abraham Woodhull. From there, he crossed lines of dark, open water in small boats with no lights, no escorts, and no margin for error. British patrol ships hunted the Sound constantly. A single lantern flash, the creak of a mast, or an unlucky encounter could end with capture, prison, or execution. But Brewster crossed anyway. Sometimes he carried written intelligence beneath supplies. Sometimes he carried messages memorized in his head. Either way, the British were always closer than they appeared. Once across the Sound, Brewster delivered the intelligence to couriers like Austin Rowe, who took it inland to Talmadge and finally to Washington himself. Again, through this chain, Brewster helped, like all the others, with British troop deployments, naval movements out of New York Harbor, loyalist conspiracies, planned raids on New York ports, and strategic intelligence used in the Yorktown campaign. You can see that all of these individuals all had their hands on the same thing. Washington came to trust Brewster completely. At times, Washington even used him for direct communication missions that bypassed other intermediaries because Brewster had proven he could deliver under pressure. British patrols repeatedly came close to capturing Brewster. More than once, he narrowly escaped interception. On several occasions, British suspicion tightened so tightly on Long Island Sound and the traffic, parts of the entire Culper Ring were briefly ordered to go silent. Through it all, Brewster continued running the Sound. Unlike agents inside the cities, Brewster had no walls to hide behind. Every mission exposed him to weather, enemy ships, and complete isolation. If he went down the Sound, no one would ever know exactly what happened, and yet still, he crossed. When independence was finally secured, Caleb Brewster returned briefly to civilian life, but soon re-entered public service. He later served as a revenue officer and maintained connection to national service for much of his life. Unlike many spies, Brewster did eventually receive limited recognition for his service. But even so, the full scope of his role in Washington's intelligence system would not be fully understood for generations. He died in 1827, long after the war. He helped sustain in silence and he reshaped the world. Caleb Brewster turned enemy-controlled waters into a secret highway for an American cause. Through storms, patrols, and constant threat, he kept Washington's intelligence moving when it could have died on the shoreline. When Washington needed the sound crossed in the darkness, he didn't ask twice. He just called Caleb Brewster. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Remember, history is not boring. It's far from boring. It's the story of a man who carried the revolution across dark waters, one silent crossing at a time. See you next time.